Hey guys, welcome to another episode of As the Leader Grows. I am your host, Ken Joslin. And again, I say this every week, man, but we have amazing guests on. I've got the one and only Andrew Anderson from Boise, Idaho. He is a brand new #1 international best-selling author, real estate life transformation coach. And I love what he said off air. He was like, I coach real estate agents how to be more successful in real estate, which leads to referrals, which leads to now I just help everybody. Keynote speaker, entrepreneur, and loves helping people experience life transformation. Andrew, what's up, my friend?
Such a pleasure to be with you, Ken. Thanks for putting me in front of your tribe. And I want to thank everyone that's watching, listening. We're going to experience something cool here in the next few minutes. So buckle up.
Love it, dude. We'll take a minute, Andrew. And I always ask my guests to tell our audience, take a couple minutes and let them know a little bit about who you are. Obviously, you're from Boise, Idaho. You've got 7 kids, so you're a busy dude, as you told me that off air. But tell our audience a little bit about what you've got going on.
Yeah. So, I love when someone comes in front of me that they are successful, right? They've got this business. They've got like this life that everyone's like, oh my gosh, like 7 kids, you're amazing, right? But something's about to break. And they don't know what it's going to be first. Is it their relationship, their family, their fitness, their faith? Like something's about to break and they don't believe that they can keep both of these things going at once. And that's where I step in and I say, listen, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can live a beautiful life that you've designed while continuing to grow your business. And that's what I'm passionate about, is helping people succeed in both areas. And it always starts with you, right? You're the common denominator there.
I love that. You said you can have your cake and eat it too. Walk me through so many questions, so many things just in that one statement that you said, Andrew. Mm-hmm. Walk me through what you believe is the biggest hurdle in people. I'm not even sure it's experiencing that life, but even believing that it's possible.
Well, it comes down to the first of what I call the 7 deadly sins that break down, burn out, and bankrupt real estate agents. And it's this identity fraud. Mm-hmm. It's this, we call imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. We forget who we are. We forget what got us into this in the first place. Why did I build this business? And we don't connect ourselves to that life mission, your reason for being. And when we lose out on that, we are committing identity fraud. We feel like imposters and we don't believe that we are worthy of or capable of to achieve what we had envisioned from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Identity fraud. That really is what it is. So you connect with real estate agents, high performing real estate agents, really wanting to take it to the next level, who are kind of in a crisis of identity and why am I doing and what's going on. Walk me through what those initial conversations, and it doesn't have to be a real estate agent, it's pretty transferable principle into any business. Walk me through what those conversations will look like. Like when you have a conversation with a proposed client or somebody's referred you to somebody and you're having a conversation, what does that conversation look like? How do you find out that they're struggling with identity fraud?
Yeah, they don't ever tell me that. And I don't market it as such because it's not what they're saying. They're not like, I feel like an imposter. I don't know who I am. But what they say is they tell me about external conditions that they're struggling with. The market, right? Mm-hmm. Interest rates, their database, their neighbor, right? Who just sold their house with someone else, their spouse, their kids, their waistline, right? God not being there for whatever. They go to an external condition and I listen and I hold that space. And we begin to ask some really tough questions that helps them take ownership of their DNA that they're leaving on each and every one of these things.
So somebody's listening to this podcast today. Mm-hmm. What are some questions they can ask themselves right now? We talked about this off air a little bit. Yes. What are some questions they can ask themselves right now to even identify whether or not they're self-sabotaging, identity fraud, whatever vernacular you want to put to it? What are some questions they can ask themselves right now, Andrew, to figure out if that's where they are?
Let's start here. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much passion are you experiencing in your daily work? And if that number is anything less, well, I just want everyone to write that number down. Pick the number in your head. Scale 1 to 10. How much passion are you experiencing in your daily work? If that number is less than or equal to a 7, then this is not the life that you intended or the business that you wanted to lead. That's the first place that we start.
And so if somebody says they're a 6 or a 7 on the passion scale,
sure,
what's the next? So we've got hundreds of people that are listening to this podcast.
Right.
So we're going to have some people out of that number that are like, I'm a 5, I'm a 6, I'm a 7, I might be an 8, but I'm probably a 7. What do they need to do? What are some actionable steps for them, Andrew?
Well, we got to
get
get
that
real
passion level higher.
Yeah. We got to get real first of all, right? Like we have to identify, okay, how bad is it? And what is it? This awareness, right? We say that awareness is like 90% of change, or who knows what that number is today, but we have to have awareness. What is it that you're either missing that's causing you to feel like a 5 or a 6? Or what's present that if it weren't there in your world right now, you would feel like you had that load off and you would be above a 7, you'd be an 8 or a 9 or a 10. So we got to get real as to what is actually going on in your life today.
I love you said face the facts and self-awareness. We just finished our Create conference in Dallas about a month ago yesterday. Good friends, Brendan Bouchard, Erwin McManus, Gary Brecka, just some amazing friends of mine that were there, and front facing, everything went great, but we got hammered in some areas on some sales that we have never experienced before. And I had a call with a really good friend of mine, one of my speakers, and I said, dude, I need some feedback. And he said, do you want feedback or do you want honest feedback? And I said, Vic, I can't get better unless you give me honest feedback. And he goes, can you have too many people around you telling you how awesome you are? I was like, okay. And he goes, you are awesome. And what God's doing through you is amazing, but you've got to have somebody that gives you a different perspective so that you can be, and you've got to be self-aware enough to be able to put those right people in your lives that are going to not just be like, dude, this is awesome. And it is, but here's some areas that you can grow in. When somebody faces the facts and you are navigating with them through that journey, Andrew, of self-awareness, what are some of the things tools you give them to become more self-aware, to be able to move out of imposter syndrome or identity fraud?
Well, let me tell you what most coaches do. And then I'll tell you what most counselors and therapists do. And then I'll tell you what I do that actually works. Most coaches are going to say, all right, I get that you're here. Now tell me what you want. Where do you want to go? Let's set a goal. Like, let's light that passion, that fire inside. We're going to give you something that's so motivating that you will never stay in this place again. To be honest, I love when those people fire that coach and then they come to me. Now, that's one thing that most coaches do. Counselors and therapists say, let's talk about this. I want to unpack it. And I want to understand how you got here and why. And you're going to write a letter to your mom, right? And you're going to go camping with your dad, and you're going to sit across the fire and tell him how you really feel, right? And those are good intentions. What I do that's so differently is we take this coaching approach and this counseling approach and we marry it, and we get to the root causes of these things that you have been hacking away at, the leaves and branches of change, and we strike the roots of transformation so that we can get deep, unconscious, like neural pathway level results. And most people have never been there before. They didn't even know that's a place that you can go. And we get there fast, and we only go once, because once we uproot it, we clear the ground and we build something new.
I love that. So walk me through that. I've got a really good friend of mine, Dr. Rob Kelly, who is the #1 alcohol addiction doctor in the world.
Wow.
And a lot of NLP, a lot of neural pathway stuff, 97% success rate with people that get into his alcohol addiction program, deals with a lot of celebrities. And this is what he's my therapist as well. So this is one of the things that we've worked on for the last year and a half. But for people that aren't familiar with neural pathways and subconscious and rewiring and those kind of things, break that down, or as my pastor says, put cookies on the bottom shelf.
Yes,
I love that. Not understand what you're talking about, Andrew.
Right. So NLP, neuro linguistic program. Neuro is your brain. Linguistics is how we make meaning of the world, not just in language, but how do we literally create meaning inside of our brain? And then how does that meaning that we make inside our brain program us to show up and do the things that we do that gets the results that we get? And if we can go back to the meaning that you created, the decisions that you made, and the beliefs that came from those decisions, and recognize that those are all connected to the behaviors that are not helping you get the results that you want to get today, then we can change them with a very simple process. And we can instill new decisions, create new meaning, neuroplasticity, right? This idea that your brain can actually change. You can create new hardware. That's what we do.
Yeah, I love that. Dr. Rob's got a video where it actually shows the new neural pathways forming and literally connecting and forming new neural pathways. Talk about why that is so important in
That's important because
unstuck.
If you're stuck and you're continuing to make changes to external things, you can read Atomic Habits for the rest of your freaking life. And you can implement new miracle mornings. And you can have the most amazing vision board. And yet, if you're doing all of these things and they are not in alignment with what you truly believe to be true at a deep cellular level, then you're going to end up doing one of two things. You're either going to quit because you think there's something wrong with you, or you're going to quit because you think that that coach or that person or that product is just baloney. Like, it doesn't work.
I love that. So walk me through. So you've got a client that comes on, you're walking them through. How do you identify what they need when it comes to NLP, or which limiting beliefs or thought patterns need to be rewired?
Right. So what I do is I call it walking through the forest. We take a huge, look at what's going on in their life in 6 areas. We identify the one area that they know that if everything could be a 10 out of 10 in this area and they could be in place of passion and purpose, then everything would get better. So we look through that lens and we identify what they're struggling with. And I figure out, where did that start? When did you start experiencing that? And not only that, but what are the beliefs and the emotions that you've held? And once we begin to identify what these beliefs and emotions are, we can get really quickly to what planted that seed in the first place. And it doesn't have to take sessions upon sessions and years upon years of counseling and therapy. I do a deep dive in 5 hours over 2 days, and we take care of everything that we need to take care of so that we can then coach and help them build from that point forward.
So basically, you're taking it all the way back down to the foundation so they can then build the proper thought pattern and the proper neuroplasticity and the things that they need to be able to make the right decisions.
Yeah, this is not a remodel. Like, let's slap some wallpaper over the over that. Like, we're going to take the whole wall down, and we're going to go to the studs, and then you're going to tell me whether or not you like those. If you don't like them, we're going to go all the way down to the concrete. And if you don't like that foundation, we're going to rip it out and we're going to design something new that you never knew was even possible.
So let me ask you a question because I would love to hear some stories of some clients that you've worked with, Andrew.
Yeah.
But tell me, where did you discover this? How did you get into NLP work I know a lot of real estate agents. Obviously I'm with EXP. You see it in my background, friends with some of the top EXP guys, some of the, top Keller Williams guys in the world who used to be with Keller Williams, who are now with EXP, are close friends of mine. And I know a lot of the best coaches out there in the real estate, but I don't know that I know any that do NLP work with agents. Where did that come from? So obviously it had been something you worked on.
Sure. Well, let's start with 10 years ago. As of this recording, this is the month of August, 2023, 10 years ago, August 2013. Let me give you a background story. I have moved back to our hometown of Boise, Idaho. I'd been teaching for the last 6 years, married for 7. We had 2 beautiful little girls and a third that was on the way. And I had finished my master's degree in education. I loved working with these teenage kids in the high schools, and I was at the top of my game, like loving life. We'd been working with a counselor for our marriage for the past 4 years. And I thought, like, okay, we got this. 3 weeks later, my wife says that she wants to separate. I'm now living in my parents' basement because of the circumstances. I was no longer teaching, so I lost my career. I was losing my marriage, and I wasn't able to be with that baby girl on a daily basis like I'd hoped. And I'm almost 30, living in my parents' basement. And I believed I had failed God. I had failed my wife and these girls and my career. And I did not see how any of this could be redeemed. And this was my place of perceived imprisonment, where I just felt totally completely like grounded, like by her, like a little kid feeling grounded by their parents. Like I felt so much shame, and I took all the responsibility for where we were at. That was my dark night of the soul that I start chapter 1 with of my book.
I love that. And so you're there. Tell me how
What
you
happens,
climbed.
right?
Yeah, tell me how you climbed out of that. How did you go from your parents' basement to where you are right now? Tell me what that journey
Yeah.
was like.
So
How long were you separated? How long were you?
Yeah, we separated for 6 months, and it was Easter Sunday. She handed me divorce papers
Wow.
and said, we need to be done. And so during that time, my brother thought it'd be a really good idea at this, place in my life to get into real estate. He said, you should go, get a job that you don't make money for 7 months and just talk to people all day and pretend like you're confident. And I did it, right? And I knocked the doors and I made the calls and I went to the classes and I learned about coaching. And I started reading books I'd never read before, like Man's Search for Meaning and The Power of Now and The One Thing. And I just reached out to everything that I could that would help pull me out of my parents' basement. And I fell in love with all of this that was lighting something inside me that had been there. I just didn't know that it was until it went out. And that was year 1 of selling real estate, which turned into being recruited as a coach. And I stopped selling real estate. And so for the last 9 years, I've been coaching and bringing others out of their dark nights of the soul and helping them get back to that fire that's inside them, that life mission that they were meant to fulfill.
And walk me through tell me how NLP was a part of this process for you to get better.
I was told at one point that my daughter, because of what was going on at the time, would be struggling with PTSD for the rest of her life. And something just didn't feel right to me. I didn't believe it. And I was labeled with some pretty heavy mental illnesses at the time. And I believed them because it helped make sense for why our marriage and family was falling apart. It wasn't until a doctor of psychiatry sat me down in his home office and said to me, Andrew, you were misdiagnosed. People that have, this disorder are not able to keep their life together. I mean, you kept a job for 6 years. You don't drink. You don't have, drug problems. You have friendships, like people trust you. And when he took that label off from me, I felt free. And as I learned to grow as a coach, I began doing that with others. And then somehow NLP and transformational coaching and all these tools that I didn't have fell into my lap. And I started doing that deep work for myself and for my clients and started seeing massive results. So we didn't have to keep, chipping away at all of the leaves and branches of change. We could finally get to that root and take care of it. I did it for myself, and the natural implementation was for others as well.
So you're walking through this season of your life, very difficult. You find NLP just a different form of therapy to really help rewire your subconscious. So your neural pathways set a different path for you in the thought life, which then in turn obviously changes how we talk, which is obviously changes what we do. And you did that, and that process literally changed your life. Talk to me about the first person you worked with that you were able to help in that same manner.
Yeah, I remember when I came back from my training, having gone through this process myself and helping others during that 2 weeks, 2 full weeks, 10-hour days, like 14 days. I came back and I told the coaches that were working underneath me, because I had this little productivity coaching business. There were 4 of us coaches. We had 116 agents in our program. We were just killing it here in Boise. I told those coaches, I said, I can help anyone with anything. And they looked at me and they don't even laugh anymore, because they know that I have this thing called compulsive certainty. It's exceedingly great faith, whatever you want to call it. Like once I know something, I just know. And I sat each of them down and said, we're going to do this work together. And so I brought my leaders, I brought my team, and I took them through the process. And I remember one of them had a moment where she recognized that she felt so much shame about moving forward as a businesswoman instead of being a mother. that she hadn't told anyone about and she wasn't even aware of. And when we let go of that shame, the cool thing about being a coach is I don't get to determine whether she becomes a mom or continues to grow her business. I just get to help free her from the emotions that aren't helping her move forward in either direction. And as soon as we were able to do that, she was able to explode in her life and no longer be banging her head against this invisible thing that she couldn't figure out.
And yeah, really doesn't understand. There's no idea why. Like, why am I continuing to do this? Why do I continue to struggle with this one thing? And really has no idea that the root is a neural pathway that's been formed, and there's shame there that she didn't even know was there. And if she doesn't know it's there, she can't deal with it properly.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crazy. Like, people are fighting an enemy that they think is themselves. Like, people will tell me all the time. I ask, what's the number one thing that will get in your way of having a successful outcome in our coaching together? They always say, it'll be myself. And they're fighting themselves. And that's the wrong enemy. And yet they believe that to be true. They really think that there's something wrong with them.
It's good.
And I'm here to say there's nothing wrong. You're not broken. You're whole. We just got to move the pieces back together. We have all the puzzle pieces. We just got to put them right in back in the spot that they were in when you were born as a perfect child.
I love that. So you've been working on, NLP coaching stuff. Tell me where your book, you just published, you're an international best-selling author. Tell me where did the book come from? Where was the aha moment, kind of the catalyst of, oh, I need to take this. I need to put this in book form and be able to share this with the world.
So February 1st, 2020, 2 weeks before the worldwide, what we call the pandemic, right? Yeah. I'm standing in the Virgin River in Zion National Park, Southern Utah. Have you ever been, Ken?
It's beautiful. Zion's gorgeous. Yes.
Hey, I had never been until this very moment. I'm looking up at the sheer rock wall, gorgeous, deep oranges and reds, goes on for hundreds of feet. And in this moment, I'm feeling the magnificence and the grandeur of creation and nature. And it brings a tear to my eye. And I'm having this really tender, personal moment. And then the thoughts came into my mind, Andrew, this is a rock. You are my son. Imagine what others will experience when you fulfill the measure of your creation. That one tear turned into about 1,000, and I'm bawling my eyes out, and I don't even know what this means. I just know that there's more. And as I get my composure and walk away from this wall, strength of the oak, strength of the willow comes into my mind. And I know it's a book that I have to write. I don't know what it's about, who it's for, but the title came to me as a direct revelation, and I was in.
So talk about, obviously faith's huge to you. Talk about your faith in this whole process of NLP.
So if I recognize that someone's in severe physical trauma, I'm going to pray my freaking heart out for them, and I'm going to take them to a professional to help them get the care that they need. And sometimes we're sitting around waiting, praying for God or some angel or someone else to help save us from our problems. And we have tools. And he says, you want to make some changes? Let's start with what you believe to be true, because you have been deceived. Whether it's Adam and Eve, our first parents, all the way back to our last parents, like whoever you want to blame, your parents or Adam and Eve, like we all believe things to be true that aren't true. We're deceived. And if we can take care of that deceit and we can truly treat the cause of our pain, we can change it just like that.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the one thing I pastored for 15 out of the last 30 years. I was a
Amazing.
senior pastor. I was a student pastor, grew up student ministry of several hundred kids, and then planted a church with 3 couples, grew it to several hundred people. And the one thing that we don't really do well inside the church is we almost shy away from science.
Right.
And we just really lean on, well, God can do it. The Holy Spirit can hear. And he can. I've seen God do unbelievable works in people's lives immediately, transformational at the moment. I mean, it happened with Paul, he wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, all of those things, but there are moments, and there are science and things that are there that literally I tell people all the time. And I've had a lot of conversations with pastor friends of mine that pastor huge churches around the country. And we've had conversations of, if you have a sinus infection, nobody has a problem with you going to the doctor and getting some, amoxicillin or a Z-Pack or something to blow that. Why do we shy away from some of the science. It could be because God's the one that created us. And any leadership principle that, one of my friends like John Maxwell or Brendan Bouchard or anybody teaches, all those leadership principles that you and I teach, they're all transferable principles that come from Scripture. They're rooted in Scripture. Why do you think we're so hesitant in the church to identify and say, you know what? Yes, this is actually something that can help you.
Well, that's because we live in a two alternative world, as Stephen Covey said. It's either this or that. We're not open to a third alternative. That this can be something that is different than what you've ever believed be true. That your spirit can be directly influenced by your mental health, and as soon as we take care of that mental health, then the heart can change as well. Repentance, to me, is from that original Greek word, which is metanoeo. And that's a change of mind. If you want to change someone's heart, we have to change their mind first. And so I joke all the time that people are paying me to help them repent, because we're changing the mind so we can change the heart, so we can start doing things differently we've never done before. So it's just getting out of this like black and white, two alternative world and recognizing there's another way that is not competitive and it's not compromising. It's actually compelling, and it's going to explode and magnify your belief in God because He gave us these learnings.
I love that. I love that. John 10:10 says He comes to give us life and give it to us more abundantly. And that word life is Zoe, which means body, mind. It's basically our soul, which is our mind, will, and emotions, and our physical body and our spirit. Like all of those things, He's come to give us life, not just a part of it where we can go, okay, yes, me and Jesus are good. When I die, I'm going to go to heaven. But He wants us to live. I don't know if you know Erwin McManus or not. My team just posted this yesterday. He did a talk at my Create conference, which probably one of my top talks I've ever heard. Erwin's one of my favorite communicators in the last 30 years. Wow. And he did a talk and he said, he did use the scripture where it says, where Paul wrote, he says that God gives us the mind of Christ. And he said, God didn't give you the mind of Christ so you could stop sinning. He gave you the mind of Christ so you could live extraordinary lives. And so that was Thursday night pre-conference. I'm opening the conference on Friday morning in front of Erwin, Brendan, all my guys that are there. I changed my whole talk about how to live extraordinary lives, extraordinary decisions, build extraordinary lives, and what that looks like. So I would love to see conversations with pastors in the church of, hey, you know what? This is science. It works. Yep. It's not, I like what you said, it's not compromising, and it's not competition. Because, man, especially in the Pentecostal church where I'm from in the South, there's more competition amongst pastors there than there is in a lot of other areas, especially in business. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, dude, tell us real quick about your book, where people can find you, and how they can get connected with you, Andrew.
Yeah, definitely. So the Amazon, you can go search for Strength of the Oak, Strength of the Willow. Love it. And if you want to hear me read it to you, you can get it on Audible, or if you want to get it on your device, or the Kindle app, and certainly there's the hard copy and paperback. So Amazon, and that's the easiest way for people to find me, as well as on social media. You all go and look me up anyways. Who is this guy? Andrew L. Anderson, and you can follow me there.
I love it, dude. Well, dude, thank you so much for joining us. I just had a buddy of mine that just said, dude, this guy's so good. And I was like, question mark. He goes, the guy that's live with you on Facebook right now, which would be you. He goes, what's his name? So it's Andrew Anderson, David Stocker. Right. This is actually a pastor friend of mine from Miami. Pastors a large church down in Miami, Florida. But dude, thank you so much for joining us. So Andrew L. Anderson on Instagram, website. Hold the book up for us one more time. Strength of the Oak, Strength of the Willow. I love it, dude. I love the title. Isn't it amazing how we just have those God moments and God says, this is what I want it to be. And it's like with the vision comes into play and we're like, okay, let's go. God, you gave me the roadmap.
And, Ken, as a means of gratitude for you, for the listener, for maybe it's the pastor friend that just said, who is this guy? I'm going to do something that I can't do for everybody, but I appreciate what you're doing here. I'd like to offer 3 complimentary coaching sessions to the first 3 people that reach out. And we'll spend 30 minutes together. And they can do that by going to freecall.andrewlanderson.com. The first 3 people to sign up, I'm going to spend 30 minutes with you, and we're going to find out where we need to take you to get you back to a place of passion and purpose.
Love it. And if you'll drop me that link, guys, we'll put that in the show notes as well, so you guys have that. Andrew, thanks for joining us, my friend.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Ken.
Love connecting. Guys, thank you again for joining us on another episode of As a Leader Grows. Until next time, we will see you next week. And as always, if this has added value to you, if you'll do a couple things, number one, hit that subscribe button, take a screenshot, share this, leave us a 5-star review, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.